Hey, good morning. It's the Fort Worth Playboy, and this is the Fort Worth Playboy Morning Show. And good morning to Bunny, who has already commented and checked in. And I am glad you are all here. Um, what do we cover on the morning show? We cover game, pickup, relationships, and sex. And if you see me moving around, it's because we're starting a little bit late today, so the light has changed in this room, and so I have light bouncing off my forehead. It's not the most flattering look. So I may move around during the broadcast. If you have any questions, by all means, put them in the comment section on YouTube, and I will do my absolute best to answer them during the broadcast. And we're going to always start off with a maxim. Today is maxim number 49. Let's get that up. Maxim number 49. If you have no game, or worse, anti-game, little else will compensate for your unattractiveness. Their game creates attraction. Game, which is learned charisma. That's a lot of people don't even understand what it is. It is learned charisma. It is learning how to be more charismatic. And the best way to look at it is not so much that like not having game will cause you to be unattractive. It's as you add to your game, you become more attractive. It's like it makes you, what everybody always thinks it's like height and wealth or and handsomeness. Well, game makes you artificially wealthier and taller and more handsome. To the girl, it's the same thing. She can't feel it's kind of like the difference between fake boobs and real boobs. You may not like fake boobs, but when you see them, your body responds naturally in a positive manner. It's the same thing with game. A girl can even know you're running game on her, and she still gets excited by it and by you. Um, it doesn't matter whether it's real or learned or artificial. But when you have no game, no amount of money is going to help. You see rich guys, fumbling chicks, lonely, no personality, nothing. And they'll tell you that too. They're like, yeah, I spent my whole 20s like making money, and now I'm like, I don't have a personality of cardboard, and they know. So they have to learn. Just like with anything else, the longer you delay it, makes it a little bit tougher. Not impossible, but it makes it a little bit tougher. Because old habits die hard, and you got to reinstill new habits. But again, if you have no game, or worse, anti-game would be people that like reject it. They want a girlfriend, but they don't want to have to be attractive or to talk to them or do anything like that. Then that's anti-game. Little else will compensate for your unattractiveness. And girls can like smell it. They're like, oh, this isn't good. And then it reinforces itself. So just know, and I always try to spin things into a positive manner. There's enough negativity out there. Is game will make you more attractive. You don't have to make an extra dollar that month. You will appear wealthier. You don't have to get any taller, put lifts in your shoes, but you will appear taller. And again, girls are not good judges at this. And that's great. Great for us, bad for them. And again, more personality can cover up your enthusiasm, can cover up for a lot of deficiencies. And again, what girls always say, if you don't think that this works, when you see a friend of yours or a girl that you know pretty well, she's with a guy that's not really her type. He's short, he's overweight, he delivers pizzas for a living, and she usually goes out with finance guys. She will say, she doesn't know what it is. She'll, oh, I don't know. There's just something about him. Well, what that something is charisma. And so it covers up for a lot of deficiencies and allows you to get your foot in the door and then stay inside. So that's the real deal with maximum number 49. If you have no game or worse, anti-game, little else will compensate for your unattractiveness. Next slide. I wonder if this is going to be one of those broadcasts where it's just me and you and Bunny. And that'll be okay. We'll record it and then we can play it back. I actually started this. This is a tweet that I built off of something that I was working on, like, you know, how I always say you need to speak to every attractive girl you see. You need to say hi at least, and, you know, build your own confidence up. Most girls today are fat, entitled cunts, not deserving of any chivalry. For unknown girls, I stopped holding doors, letting girls go ahead of me, making way. I was very overly polite. Elevator doors open and I'm stepping out first. Wherever I have to be is far more important than their nail appointment. Where you're going is always more important than anywhere. Anything a girl could be doing. Again, if it's your grandmother, if it's a pregnant woman, if it's your girlfriend. I mean, yes, there are exceptions to the rule, but generally, most guys are super polite. You need to learn to tamp down that politeness and make yourself your point of origin. And it brings it down. It's kind of like we say in game, less is more. When you take care of yourself more, you'll become more attractive. Again, girls know they don't deserve doors to be held open for them. They don't deserve almost anything, but guys do it anyway. And when you don't do it, it conveys subconsciously that you're a guy that just gets it and you have higher value than her. Again, it doesn't mean you have to like stiff arm, you know, an elderly woman or not give your seat up to a pregnant girl. There are exceptions. There are certain, you know, just being human. But again, for the vast majority, put yourself first. And you'll see yourself feeling better about yourself. And again, because you owe these girls nothing and nothing they'll get. And it's good for them too. It kind of reminds them of the pecking order. But most girls today are overweight, entitled, not deserving of any of your chivalry. For unknown girls, stop holding doors, letting girls go ahead of you, or making way. Elevators doors open, you go first. Wherever you got to be, it's far more important than anybody else in there. And it's definitely more important than their nail appointment or to get their butt waxed or whatever they're going to do. So that is the real deal. And again, it instills in you your higher value than girls. That's the real deal. And as you carry that, it'll benefit you in a lot of ways. Next slide. This is something from Bunny and I. She kind of clued me into this. This is an ugly truth because I do get questions. This comes from guys going, hey, you know, I started dating a girl. She used to be really heavy and now she's lost it. Is there anything I should know? Girls who have been heavy in the past will tend to fall back on old habits when in a new relationship, you get comfortable with the guy. Again, you work stress, business travel, breakups, pregnancies, work schedule changes, parents get ill, kids stress. That's the one. And Bunny kind of clued me into this. And I asked her, I remember, yeah, I've done weight loss for my whole life, but the ongoing, the follow-up, you know, somebody had said, hey, you know, my girlfriend lost like 50, maybe 100 pounds in the past. And this is a very common question. They said, and they're already together. And I've had guys go, hey, this girl lost a bunch of weight and I'm not sure, you know, because should I take a chance? It's a calculated risk because as Bunny said to me, and it makes total sense and she's seen it, girls that have lost a lot of weight, not all, but will have a propensity that in a stressful situation will revert back to old habits. And this would make sense. I mean, it's just like if you're a dude and you smoke and then you stop smoking and then your like wife is like having trouble with a difficult pregnancy and work sucks, and your parents need you to take care of them, you're going to probably start smoking again. That's just the way it is. So the same thing works with girls that have had weight issues in the past. Not 100%, it's not guaranteed, but the propensity is there when they go through a stressful situation. And guys are as guilty of it as girls are. Like, we see couples get fat together. They get together, and we even had a girl just returned. She got married, and she said, yeah, we caught ourselves the last 3 years like sitting on the couch. We'd rather drink wine and watch TV together than go to the gym. And these are active people. So everyone can get caught into this. You really have to discipline yourself. But again, if it's your job, which, you've been in fitness your whole life, or, it's your habit now, and the girl that you are dating has had a propensity to gain weight in the past during, as she was growing up or during stressful, you have to be aware of that. And you can help them get on track, or stay on track, or make sure she's actually going to the gym with you, make sure she's eating well. These are the things that matter. But again, girls who have been heavy in the past, yes, there is a propensity under stressful, not normal life, but stressful situations, they will fall back to old habits. And it's very it's a double whammy. They're like, not only is my mom sick, but now I've gained 30 pounds. So it's kind of like a double whammy, and they feel twice as bad about themselves as just managing their mom, and as we both know, or as we all know, being in shape during a stressful situation will help you weather the stress. So that's the answer. The answer is yes. There is a propensity for girls who have been heavy in the past to regain weight under stressful conditions. Not 100%, but there is a percentage chance greater than a girl who's never been overweight in the past. Next slide, and we're cranking through this. We're talking about like unicorns, and we see this, and we have one video up that's about 38, never married, no kids. She's insane. You can just guarantee it. If a girl is extremely attractive, 35 or older, and has never been married, and I would also say never married, no kids, she's not a unicorn. Something or some things at some point in the past has gone terribly wrong for her. And this, girls kind of like start discovering, getting active at 14, 15 with boys. And then now that's a good 20 years of activity, but she hasn't been married. No one's like chosen her to be a wife, and she hasn't had kids. She doesn't have an ex-husband in the background. A lot of them, they'll say, I almost got married. But you need to know that sometimes, yeah, it's possible. Very rare, but it's possible that somebody has that much just bad luck. But in this case, usually it's a little bit of her personality mixed with bad luck and a bad picker. So something at some point has gone terribly wrong for her. And the chances of it going terribly wrong for you both is very high. We know a lot of guys in their early 40s, late 40s with smoke shows, girls that are between 35 and 40, but they're absolute terrors to live with. And this is one of those things Bunny's even better about this because she can kind of describe their personality because she knows them to a T. But she's not never married and no kids because she's been saving herself for you to meet when she's 38. So it's going to surface. Whatever it is, whatever fatal flaw she has is going to surface. It may be 6 months. It may be 2 years, but usually they can't last more than 2 years without it surfacing. It's a long time to repress your natural personality. So yes, there are instances where girls will like go through one or two long romances or long relationships in their 20s and neither turn into husbands, and then they'll be unmarried with no kids in their early 30s. But it's very rare. And once past 35, it's extremely rare. That 30 to 35 girls kind of go, okay, I got to get my shit together. And they can be married within a year to 2 years. But if a girl is extremely attractive, again, most extremely attractive girls are not on the market for very long for various reasons. 35 or older and never married, she's not a unicorn. You haven't like found a pot of gold. You really found like it looks like gold on top, and then it's like a pot of shit. And then something at some point has gone terribly wrong for her. Most of it probably caused by her, instigated by her. It's set into motion. So just know that that's what you're inviting into your life, and you play at your own risk. And you've been warned, but a lot of guys go, you know what? I've never been with a girl this attractive before. I'll give it a shot. And then 2 or 3 years later, they're like, it wasn't worth it. And you have to find out yourself. Next slide. If you've gone out with a girl, you've hooked up. Most guys, any guy that has my how to build a dating system never goes beyond the second date without fucking the girl. I've never had anybody make it to the third date without fucking. So it's either first date or second date. And if you're dealing with this and they kind of disappear on you, or they're kind of hot and cold, or you're kind of trying to put them into the rotation and they're not fitting in, or they seem distracted. If she's hot and cold, shows up and disappears, and or never seems to be pushing you towards an agenda, she's fucking someone or someone's else as well. That's something you need. I mean, first of all, always assume she's a slut. Always assume she's already seeing or having sex with somebody when you meet her, and she is, especially for adults. You know, you're not 18. It's not anything special at that point. It's just like a habit. So she's seeing one or two other guys intimately. They're not just hanging out so he can spend money. She's fucking someone else and is distracted. And you'll see this consistently, even for good players, especially in that beginner intermediate where they're just starting to run rotations. They'll have trouble like getting the girl over, or, you know, but she'll come eventually, and she might come on the wrong night, or she might reach out after she's been out on a date. But again, he can't really predict it. She's kind of flaky, which is, you know, girl world. But if she's hot and cold, kind of hard to get a hold of, she comes and goes, shows up and disappears, and or never seems to be pushing towards an agenda. And that's usually one of, you know, if you've been banging for like 10, 12 weeks and she doesn't, you know, all girls will give you the free 12-week trial. You can test drive the pussy for 12 weeks, and then she's going to ask for a commitment. Then she's hot or cold, and she shows up and disappears. I'm getting distracted if I see messages. I can't think two thoughts at one time, but never seems to be at 12 weeks. Usually they'll say, hey, what are we? I mean, even if they don't really want a boyfriend, even if they don't really want you to be their boyfriend, I think they're almost compelled to do this. Bunny would be able to answer that question better. I mean, I don't know if there's like an internal compass, or even if they're not that interested in you. But again, if she's fucking, she will not pull this up. She'll just keep rolling. She's seeing you and some other guys, and that's completely fine. I mean, that's part of the deal. That's part of if you're going to run rotations, you can't expect her to be exclusive and you're not. It just doesn't work. But you should be aware that if you're kind of having trouble with logistics, it's because they're seeing other men and they're trying to juggle. And they're very good about being polite about not throwing one man in front of another guy, or they don't know how they'll react. You'll probably react better than most, but they know there's always the potential for anger or violence, and she may enjoy being around you for the time she's around you. She also enjoys being around him. Maybe he has more potential for being a boyfriend. But that's a real deal. If a girl has like kind of flaky, off kilter behavior, especially if you're used to running a lot of women, she's seeing other people too, and that will, you know, tend to keep her distracted, and she won't be that, because she's also managing badly her schedule. So next slide. As a rule of thumb, men in their 30s, 40s, and 50s should not even bother dating girls in the same decade. And this is most common. This is the first thing that surprises guys that like get divorced in their late 30s, early or 40s and 50s, is they initially almost all will date somebody that was about their wife's age, 2 or 3 years younger than them. And then they go, man, this is terrible. These girls are in bad shape and they're hateful. And the first thing we do when we get these guys is, how do you feel about younger girls? And they're like, well, I don't want to date a 22-year-old. And we're like, no. Like 10 years. Like, you're 45. How about a 35-year-old girl? It is it's like night and day. That 10-year age gap just seems to be the sweet spot. Again, if you're 38, 28. If you're 48, 38. 10 years is a big swing. When you get older, it's a good space, and it's not as extreme as 30 and 20. And you get on the ground, you see. But again, it's the first thing that we suggest, because when girls, especially in their 30s, 40s, 50s, are your age, one, you're working against the current, because one, you remind them of her ex-husband, because you're about his age. You remind them of their ex-bosses. You remind them of all the ex-boyfriends that have done them wrong. You remind them of every bad thing that's happened. But if there's a 10-year gap, generally she hasn't dated guys 10, 15 years older than her whole life. I mean, there's a difference. So, and they will tend to defer, and they tend to be more relaxed. And again, they have 10 years less wear and tear on them, both mentally and physically. But the mental can be just as tough as the physical. You just don't see it. They're a mess inside. Bunny's good at spotting that before I spot it, which is really crazy. Bazooka, I am open for questions. I'll do the best I can. And let me know what it is, and hopefully I'll be able to see it. I don't always do well with this laptop. My apologies. Still a little short on the technology sometimes. Must be 28 or older for a 10-year age gap. Yes, correct. And that's the real deal with age gap. Look for 10 years to begin, that 8 to 10 years, and just test it out. If you're not having a lot of luck with girls, because we don't always, a lot of guys, when they reach out, they're like, hey, I'm dating this girl 3 or 4 years younger than me. And they're happy. And they just want to make some minor adjustments, or they want to know how to move her to the next level. But if you're struggling and, you're in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, a lot of times you need to drop the age. And guys aren't even aware. It's easy. And there's just certain like landmines that you kind of need to avoid. Again, like with most game, it's about what you don't do that will help you be successful. In my book, Younger Women, the definitive guide to age gap dating, answers all those questions. But most importantly, it shows you how not to step on a landmine that will blow your leg off. And she's like, oh, I can't believe I was dating this guy. You don't want to put yourself in that position. It's very easy to avoid and not make a misstep or, put your foot on the wrong thing. It happens all the time. And again, these girls tend to, a lot of guys I've noticed in their 40s and 50s will still want more kids, or they want another family. And a girl who's 40 is like, my uterus is closed for business. I'm not doing that. So a lot of this sometimes does come down to logistics, and it works for everybody. And so that's the real deal on men in their 30s, 40s, and 50s should not even bother dating girls in the same decade. Let's take a question. I'm always trepidatious about this. Let's see. Bazooka says, so I am a young guy in college, and something I really struggle with is the thought of getting a girl pregnant. How do you deal with the situation, or what are your thoughts? It is a real, hey, if you have to, it just comes down to I hate to tell you this, and it's not the answer everybody wants. You just have to go to a condom all the time. That's the real deal. 2 condoms if you're paranoid. It's not unusual, and you'll last forever. But again, you don't, if you're concerned, you need to take responsibility. You need to take care of that that part of the mechanics. You cannot think about your average girl. She can't remember to eat breakfast. She lost her car in a parking lot for 3 days. Didn't tell anybody. You know, she like can't get to class on time to save her life. These are not girls you want like responsible for preventing a pregnancy that will affect you to the tune of 800, 900, $1 million over the next 18 years. And you will pay. So just know that's for guys that are paranoid or concerned, or know that it would be a distraction. You just wear a condom, and that's your rule until you get to know her over time and you're exclusive. And then there is some agreement and you actually keep an eye on her and see that this is a responsible thing to do. It's just like if you teach your girlfriend how to drive, you wouldn't just toss her the keys and give her your car to go for a run. You would actually teach her, keep an eye on her, go through the process, get her licensed, keep keeping an eye on her till you're comfortable with letting her go on her own. The same thing, and why wouldn't it be even more important with contraception? And so it may not be the sexiest answer, but it's the answer, and it will keep you out of trouble. It's a good habit to have. And again, habits, whatever your habit is, it just becomes the way it is. And you will save yourself a lot of grief. You might not have to marry the wrong girl, and you'll definitely it's very expensive. And that's the real deal, Bazooka. Bazooka, this is a good question, and I hope I answered it to the best of my ability. It might be something that Bunny and I also will cover on Saturday morning. I always like to get her take on some of these things that I haven't covered that often. But again, when it comes down to pregnancies, you have to protect yourself and protect the girl from herself, because girls get caught up just as much as men, and they're not nearly as responsible. And they're not thinking about the outcome. They'll be concerned when they're pregnant, but beforehand, it's just this ephemeral thing that will never happen. Remember, it just happened. How'd she get pregnant? It just happened. He just had sex with me. So remember, you're responsible. You're the one that you made everything happen up to that point. You have to make sure the contraception happens as well. And that's the real deal. I think we're at 28 minutes. And one more, which I think is always funny. Marty said, the amount of girls' selfies with filthy rooms behind them is mind-blowing. Yes. And if a girl sends you a selfie, you need to comment on the room like, oh my God, clean that shit up. That is exactly what they need to hear. They can have their tits hanging out, whatever, their ankles up around their ears. But what you should notice is like the 35 Starbucks cups and shit all over. I mean, it's bad. And they'll do it. And girls live that way. But Bunny and I have discussed this too. Until they get pregnant. And then at about 7, 8, 9 months, they start cleaning things. And then, not all, but for a lot of them, it's never a problem again. It's really bizarre what changes with girls. And he also says the one with the rat on the dirty laundry. I haven't seen that, but that gives you an idea. Yes, girls are disgusting. Their bathrooms are disgusting. Their locker rooms are disgusting. Everything's disgusting, and they leave shit everywhere. But a lot of that stuff goes away as soon, for whatever reason. It's like there must be a hormone that's released, and they go, "Oh, I can't bring this child into this filthy." And because you want to see moms anal retentive about cleanliness, you get around moms, they're like, they're wiping those hands, at least with the first 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, they've got them They got it down a system. So that's the real deal. Yes, I hope you guys had a good morning, and I appreciate you jumping in here 30 minutes, hour and a half late. But tomorrow morning, I have no choice because we start work early. I will be here at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. If you have any questions, by all means, ask them. And Bunny and I will be here at 7 a.m. on Saturday to take your questions as well. And we appreciate your patronage. If you'd like to purchase any of Bunny's products, you can find her at myplayboysbunny.gumroad.com. How to Fuck Like a Porn Star. I highly recommend it. Any of my products, including Dating Younger Women, the Definitive Guide to Age Gap Dating, can be found at fortworthplayboy.gumroad.com. And that is the real deal. Hope you gentlemen have a great Thursday.